across the pavement, hoping it'll cave and swallow me whole. Wonder why my mind keeps on spinning. This is how I live into me what's so.
Sorry, I'm Brad.
I'm Krista.
And you have an awesome and blessed day. No. That comes later.
And we're done here.
That comes later. So I got to tell you what, I've been reading some articles and doing some research that has crazily gotten a bee in my bonnet. And we don't generally do rant videos, but this is not necessarily a rant video as much as it is a warning and pay attention video, because we're being manipulated in ways that you cannot believe. Have you ever Googled the phrase, "You'll own nothing and be happy"? You'll own nothing and be happy.
You should do that.
You should.
You should pause the movie or pause the video and open a new tab and Google it.
Because this isn't Brad just going blah, 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 blah. Here, watch my video. Aren't I great? Because, well, I'm not really great anyway, but the reason is when you do the research, it's painfully eye-opening. And this is not a liberal conservative thing. This is not a black versus these guys and whites versus these guys, or these people don't like them and they don't like this. No. This is elites managing your life to make their lives a lot easier and your lives not so easy.
Right.
You'll own nothing and be happy. So what this is an agenda that is being pushed forth by the World Economic Forum. Now, who these people are the muckety-mucks of the world. These are the 1%. These are the people that are, let's just say, Bill Gates and then up.
The super elites.
The Superman.
Yeah, no, not Superman.
And
super
women.
elites.
These are the huge big-time rulers and muckety-mucks economically who look down on us and say, you bad, we good, you serve us and we'll manage you. And so what this is, and it's a stated, voiced, actual agenda that they've agreed on. Look up Schwab, you'll see it. That they're all out there saying that we need to manage these people in a way for the good of the environment, for the good of children, for the good of us moving forward, so that everybody can come up, when in reality it's just managing you. For example, what it is they want you to no longer own stuff, but basically you are either allowed it or you rent it. Scout's honor, guys. Look it up. What they want to do is, for the sake of the good of all people moving forward in humanity, they keep themselves way up here, and then they want you to be basically a servant. So in reality, I've seen they're starting to put these things out there where you don't own items anymore. You rent them. You know, okay, you say, Brad, well, that's no big deal. That's been around for a long time. Well, yeah.
Conditioning.
Well, yeah, but at least at that point it was your choice.
Right.
Now they're going to just say, well, you know, you can be allowed to live on that land that's not yours, because it's not really your land. It's land that all humanity owns. And you can be allowed to live there as long as you do what they say. And there's really the trick.
I'm not okay with that.
No, it's not up to some... Sorry. It's not up to them to say what we may or may not have. It's up to God.
Right.
And
just because they have more money doesn't mean they can make the rules.
Well,
that's what they're trying to do.
My mind is glitching out in 10 different ways.
I know. That's why I haven't really said a whole lot, because, yes.
For instance, business models in the past, you could rent something and then it was your choice. But it was your choice.
Right,
If you didn't want to own it, fine.
right,
Your choice.
right.
Now it's not going to be a choice. They're trying to spin it in advance to where it's like, well, isn't this going to be better? This is going to be great. You have no responsibility.
All the politics. So how do you adjust your estimates based on adjusting the denominator in the equation? It's simple division. We all learned how to do it when we were in school. That's all we've done. The fact that what's happening in the environment is happening, we're not questioning whatsoever. And if people believe that simply questioning that one point is giving solace to people who are climate change deniers, you can come to John and I and we will absolutely tell you that is not what we're saying. What we're saying is get the right facts, come to the right conclusions, and let's have a reasonable, rational argument about this. The implications are ultimately political. I agree with that, but you know, you're entitled to your opinions and your political beliefs, but you're not entitled to your own facts.
I mean, we all know the IPCC numbers about where we have to be at 2030 and where we have to be at 2050. Especially on the 2030 number, our arguments have no impact on that at all, right? What's happening between now and 2030, everyone agrees to. We're talking about what the world will be looking like 20 years after that, and it'll be a different world. But this is not an excuse at all for stepping back in efforts to mitigate global warming and to combat climate change.
Well, and also I think another, perhaps maybe not just political message, but policy message that comes out of your book is that immigration is good. Immigration is necessary, particularly for some Western countries. Indeed, as you said, there may be, in fact, one day we get to a point where there's a fight for immigrants to come. So what do you say to the naysayers out there? Because there's a lot of naysayers. You alluded to Donald Trump in the White House, and certainly there's a lot of anti-immigrant rhetoric coming out of the White House at the moment. The picture that you painted of this declining population is very reminds me of sort of Germany today. And of course, Angela Merkel a few years ago took a big gamble and you know, allowed more than 1 million refugees to come into the country. And today there is the Alternative for Deutschland inside the parliament. So, you know, there are a lot of naysayers. There is a rise of global populism today. So how do you square that? Or if I may, what's the, you know, what do you say to the naysayers out there that say, you know what, immigration's not working?
Well, I think the most important point, and again, it's no coincidence, as we say, the two Canadians wrote this book. Canada gets immigration right, or Canada gets immigration better than any other country. For one reason, and we don't need to get into the history of it, multiculturalism works more easily for us than it does for some other countries. China just does not want immigrants. Hungary just does not want immigrants. And that's a cultural decision that the Chinese have made and the Hungarians have made, and they will live with the consequences of that. But we are a nation that has always accepted immigrants. And indeed, we are a nation that has always gone out and sought out immigrants. You know, Clifford Sifton, who we mentioned in the book, you know, in the 1890s, population decline was a big issue in Canada. People were leaving Canada and moving to the United States. And it was Sifton who said, we're going to go into Eastern Europe and we are going to recruit immigrants to come to Canada. And we're going to convince them to do this. And you know, a lot of people said, no, they'll never integrate. They're Eastern Europeans. They don't speak our language. They're all Catholics. We don't want these people. But Canada needed them. And we filled the prairies with immigrants from Eastern Europe. As one of my students said, I taught a course on this at Ottawa. He said, no Clifford Sifton, no Wayne Gretzky. and so that's our ethos. And the important thing is always to remember that ethos. Countries that bring in large numbers of people for purely humanitarian reasons get into trouble, because after a certain point, you start to get that kickback, right? You bring in 1 million. Now, I'm not in any way criticizing Angela Merkel for bringing in 1 million refugees. That was a terrible global crisis. Canada did its part too. But you bring in too many refugees, you get alternative for Germany. The point is to push home the idea that we are bringing in immigrants because they have the education and the skills and the youth to power our economy. It's not some global concept. Look at your workplace. Look at your street. Look at your community. What impact are immigrants having on it? Well, they are owning the businesses. They are diversifying the workplaces. They are producing new ideas. They are growing our economy. And if you keep immigration always focused on that, yes, we bring in about 10% of our intake every year is humanitarian, and that's important. But if you always focus on the fact that this is our own naked self-interest to bring these people in, then you will have a greater consensus in support of immigration than if you just appeal to the better angels of people's nature.
So I would just add, I mean, this is one of the issues that the government's having right now. So when we go out and do our polling, yes, I'm in the polling business, and we ask people what are the most important issues facing the country today, number 4 on the list of 30 things that we look at is immigration, and that's not because people are happy with what's going on. And the problem that we have with immigration right now is a lot of people's perceptions are being driven by what's happening at the Quebec border. Now, the government can say what it likes about being our need to be compassionate, but people do not feel that this is working. The pictures are horrible. It doesn't look like a system that's under control. And when you get the provincial government here in Ontario and you get the city government saying that many of the places for homeless people in shelters are being taken up by people who are refugees, alleged refugees coming over the border, and that we have no way of controlling this, that's a big problem for our immigration system, because people have to have the view that it is well controlled, that we're being selective about who's coming into the country, and there are people who are actually going to make a positive contribution. That's not to say that the people coming over from Quebec or over the Quebec border right now will not make a positive contribution. But that's not the type of immigration that Canadians have basically been raised to support. So this is when it becomes a problem. And when then the government turns it into an issue of your compassion, or whether your, one political movement is racist or whatever, that's when we get into some very dangerous political territory in this country. As long as we stay going down the lane that John was talking about previously, that's when we're successful. When we go down that other lane, that starts looking like Italy, Spain, France, the UK. You want to know why we had Brexit? Brexit was driven basically by people's attitudes towards immigration and cultural change.
Absolutely.
You can argue the economics all you want, but I was there, I was doing the polling, I can tell you what it is. And it would be the same if we held the referendum again.
Thank you. So one other big theme that comes out of your book. So for me, the environmental message was very strong. Clearly, the challenge that this would face on our policy on immigration is obvious. But one thing that I'd love for you to tease out for me as well is, why is it so bad if we consume less? I mean, could we think about this, economic, we talk about this empty planet, and you certainly provided, not quite a doomsday, but sort of the negative effects of this on our economy. But tell us, why is that bad? I mean, what's so bad about having less black dresses being bought to that cocktail party that you mentioned there, John? I mean, could the planet not afford to have us buying less anyways? Could we think about maybe this is time for us to rethink of the way that an economy, a healthy economy, is actually even measured and thought of?
You see this lane? You see us staying right in this lane? I mean, these are important questions. Is liberal democracy inextricably tied to capitalism? Must capitalism be inextricably tied to constant growth? Are there alternative economic models? What would those economic models look like? Those are fascinating questions. I can't wait to read the books by those who choose to write those books. We are not questioning whether we need to go to a neo-Marxist or economic model. We don't have opinions about that. All we say is...
Well, we do, but we're not... We talk about it all the time.
Yeah, but not in the book. All we're saying is, in the current globalized economic system, which is capitalist and which is based on consumption-based growth, the economic consequences of having fewer young people are as follows. That's all we want to do. And the other argument, whether there are alternatives, that's for another book.
But I did have a specific point I wanted to make on this question. And it's something that I deal with in my day job, which is people who are marketers who are obsessed with youth. This idea that all of consumption, all taste, everything that has to be made is made for young people. That's because we never really actually think of older people as a consumer market. And I think that one of the things that will come out of this process of adjusting to a newer population is we're going to have to start thinking about what a consumer market looks like. So one of my favorite things, one of my favorite groups that I present in front of, and I've talked about these data with, are restaurateurs, Restaurant Association here in Canada. And you know, there's endless numbers of consultants and restaurant experts that get up and talk about what you have to do in your restaurant to attract young people. Well, let me help you out with something. There's not as many as you think there are. Secondly, they have no money. Why do they have no money? Because all of the older people who are here in this audience still live in Waterloo, didn't sell your house, and aren't moving. And same thing in Toronto, same thing in Vancouver, same thing in any place that has a desirable real estate market. People are living to an older age now. They're living well. They're living in a wealthy way. They actually are sitting on the wealth of the country, the older population. It's not the younger population. So to restaurateurs, you know what I say to them? Turn down the music so somebody can have a conversation. Turn up the lights so I can see my menu. Maybe make the font a little bit bigger.
Yes, definitely.
So I can read what's on it. Make it possible for me to put my walker, my scooter, my whatever device somewhere. Open up those banquettes and chairs so they're not so slippery and they're easier to get in and out of. And put some things on the menu that I actually might like to eat, and maybe I'll come to your restaurant.
Yeah. Darryl was like that when he was 32.
You can easily bend the limbs, but when that tree gets deep rooted and grows, if you try to bend the limb, it'll break. And so you're looking at these baby boomers, and the coding and programming is so embedded in them for so many years that it's they've become rooted trees. They've grown and they've got stiff bark, and you can't really bend those limbs. They'll just snap. And a lot of them aren't ready for that information. So you have to just, when I tell people who always ask me, how do I get my family members to wake up, and how do I said, you just be the light. You just do what you do. Don't put pressure on them. Every now and then you may drop a gentle seed, and that's about it. And just let them look at your life and how you're moving. Eventually they may start to ask some questions. Right. And then you can answer the question and walk away. Don't go too deep again. Just a little bit at baby steps, a little bit at a time. Some of them will come along, some of them may not. Just be happy and that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're finding yourself. And then others will also see how you're moving and how you're living through this matrix. And then they will then begin to ask you questions. And some people will jump right on in with you, full blown. Some people will take time. It's a gradual process, but like you say, you can't overdo it.
Everybody's in their own game.
Yeah,
Exactly. Lead
that's
by
right.
example. Just lead by example. If it's not for you, it's not for you. If it's,
Right.
like-
and you know them by their fruit.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Right.
It's like, did we miss that message? Like, you know people by their fruit, meaning their actions show you who they are.
Exactly.
So that whole I'm woke because so here it is. Let's go back. I was about to go full into that, which is, okay, you got the information, you got all this knowledge. Neo, when he went, he got into the chair, got the thing plugged into him, and he was sitting there for hours just downloading information, right? And he said, and he told Morpheus, I know Kung Fu. Morpheus said what? Show me.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
right.
you know. Show me.
Exactly.
Right. It's the action that proves it.
So he went in that simulation again, showing me new Kung Fu. And what did Morpheus do? He whipped his ass.
Yep. Beat him down.
He beat him down. He's training him the whole way. Yeah, you learn some information, but you can't apply it.
Until you apply that information, it's not real. It's not in this realm. It doesn't exist. It just exists in your mind.
Yes.
Until you apply it.
Absolutely. That happens to me all the time. People come to